Jefferson Phineas Davis, the first and only president of the Confederate States of America, was a planter, a politician, military leader, statesman, and soldier. Jefferson was born in Christian County, Kentucky on January 3, 1808, to Samuel and Jane Davis. He was their 10th and final child. Jefferson's father and uncle were soldiers in the American Revolutionary War, and all three of his brothers fought in the War of 1812. Though born in Kentucky, Davis grew up on a plantation near Woodsville, Mississippi. His older brother Joseph was a major influence in his life. Joseph was 24 years older than him. Joseph made a fortune as a lawyer and a planter. He was more like a father to Jefferson than a brother. After Jefferson graduated from West Point and served in the Army, Joseph gave him a plantation and slaves to farm it. Joseph also made sure that Jefferson was well educated. Jefferson attended college at Transylvania University. In 1824, when Jefferson was 16 years old, President Monroe requested that Jefferson become a candidate at West Point. Jefferson was at West Point during what was called the Eggnog Riots of 1826. On Christmas Eve, a group of cadets disobeyed direct orders not to drink alcohol. A couple cadets snuck in whiskey and rum to add to their eggnog. There was quite a party. By 4, it was so loud that it woke up some officers. They came down to see what was going on and found that the cadets had broken windows and doors. 19 were court-martialed, 9 were dismissed, and others, including Davis, were placed under house arrest. Jefferson graduated from West Point in 1828. He was 23 in his class of 34. He went to serve in the Black Hawk War of 1832. While stationed under Colonel Zachary Taylor's future president, he met the colonel's daughter, Sarah. He married her in 1835 against the father's wishes. Sadly, they came down with malaria badly only 3 months after wedding, and Sarah died. Jefferson Davis went back to cotton plantation at Davis Bend, Mississippi. Because he was a slaveholder, Davis believed that slavery was very important to the South. Davis' family took good care of the slaves. There was a hospital of sorts on the plantation. In 1845, he remarried his second wife, Verena Howell. Jefferson and Verena Davis had 6 children, 2 girls and 4 boys, but only the daughters lived into adulthood. In 1845, Mississippi sent Davis to the U.S. House of Representatives. He resigned June 1846 to fight in the Mexican War. After the Mexican War, he was elected to the U.S. Senate. In 1853, President Jefferson approved Davis as Secretary of War. In 1857, Davis returned to the Senate, pushing for more states' rights. Before the war, Jefferson agreed against secession, but when the Mississippi seceded, he resigned from the Senate on January 21, 1861. 1 month later, the Confederate Congress in Montgomery, Alabama, selected Jefferson Phineas Davis to become the President of the Confederacy. He was inaugurated for a 6-year term as President, February 22, 1862. Davis, however, did not want the job. He was hoping for a military command. At first, Jefferson Davis was a popular president with the Southern people. He worked hard on military things, but neglected the people of the South. It hurt him in the long run. He was impatient with people who disagreed with him. He also had a poor judge of people, unlike Lincoln. He often protected incompetent people, and he did not make use of talented men he disliked. In addition, he was plagued with chronic illness. Jefferson Davis lost a lot of popularity and trust because of the many defeats of the Southern Army. On April 2, 1865, he and other members of the Confederate government were forced to flee from Richmond because of the advancing of the Union Army. The Confederate president was captured by Northern soldiers near Irwinville, Georgia on May 10, 1865. Jefferson Davis was in prison at Fort Monroe, Virginia for 2 years. His physical and mental health went downhill from there. He was never tried for treason, but he was released on a bond in May 1867. After being released, he and his family traveled for some time in Europe. They relocated to Mississippi, where Davis lived out his retired years. Mississippi tried to return him to the U.S. Senate, but was no longer legally qualified to serve since he refused to request an official pardon from the United States for his role in the Civil War. Davis wrote a book entitled Rise and Fall of the Confederate Government. This book did not do well. He had a hard time making a living. He lived off of charity from friends and relatives until his death. Jefferson Phineas Davis died in New Orleans, Louisiana, December 6, 1889. He refused to take the oath of allegiance to regain his citizenship while he was alive. It was restored by the U.S. Congress in 1978.